The money piece will be there, but what you get back is profit, time, peace of mind, a healthy
Mm.
team. You're going to enjoy your business again. And it's like, what is that? What is that ultimately worth?
Welcome to today's episode of Think Outside the Boss. Today, I have with me the one and only Kevin Rains. Kevin is a successful business owner and a failed retiree. He led his family's auto body business for 18 years, growing it from one small shop into 7 locations, scaling both through organic growth and through acquisition. Kevin brought the structure and accountability to that business when he implemented the entrepreneurial operating system, also known as EOS. And ultimately, it grew the revenue more than 40 times before he sold the business in 2021. So he tried retirement at that point, but it didn't last long, and we'll hear all about that. His heart and his passion for serving others just led him back into action. And so today, Kevin serves as a professional EOS implementer. He's helping entrepreneurs and business owners get a grip on their business so they can scale with clarity instead of chaos. That sounds like something we all need in all aspects of our lives. So, Kevin, welcome to Think Outside the Boss.
Thank you. I am so happy and excited to be here. Really appreciate this.
Awesome. I am excited to share your story and share what you do with our audience. We have a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs in the audience, and you have a lot of special things to share with them. I start every podcast with the same question, and that is, when did you first know that you were a leader?
Wow. I love that question. I would say in high school, when I shifted from a large public school to a very small private school, because there was a cute girl at the small private school that I wanted to get to know. That is a true story. But I think being a little bit of I kind of got lost at the much larger school. I wasn't a great athlete. I'm 6'5" now, but at the time I was pretty short. I had a late growth spurt. So I didn't play basketball until my senior year in high school. So I switched to this school in my senior year, and being kind of a big fish in a smaller pond gave me a sense of hey, I can stand out here and do things and become who I was intended to become in ways that I kind of couldn't when I was just blending into this much larger school. So I started to play basketball. I figured out at the first practice that I could dunk a basketball, which got me a ton of accolades at this, again, very small private school. Just being able to dunk was very important to them, and nobody else had ever done it in the history of that school, et cetera. So I guess I had a sense in that moment of hey, maybe I can do something different or greater. And that led me to start leading a small team. So we did some service projects, and I began leading those. When I went into college, I kind of carried that forward and continued those serving projects and leading those and leading teams, and just became somebody on campus who was more and more recognized as a leader. But the turning point was definitely when I went from being a nobody in a public school, very large public school, to a small somebody in a small private school.
Awesome. And you learned how to dunk a basketball. That's what I heard.
I can't do it anymore. Those days are long gone.
So your advice to leaders would be switch to a smaller school
Yes.
and learn how to dunk a basketball. And I love
Yeah,
it.
there may be no lesson there whatsoever, other than that sometimes you just have to kind of get out there and try something different or get into a smaller context. I don't know what the lesson is, but it's what worked for me, at least got me started.
Well, there's a lesson there in confidence too. As you talk about sports, which is one of the benefits of youth sports. I have, different opinions on the way youth sports are today, but it is a place where kids can get confidence and they can learn something new and have fun, learn a lot about teamwork and leadership. I mean, I joke about the slam dunk because that's, my sense of humor. But, I hear the confidence in that. And also, there's nothing wrong with switching your environment. Like if you apply that story to today, it's like people switch jobs or they switch roles, and it makes all the difference because, you need to be in a different environment and be around people or, for whatever reason. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. So share a time when you were leading other people and you hit a wall, like the
Mm,
proverbial wall,
mhm.
maybe a literal wall.
Yeah.
And you're like, I like I've hit my limit. Like I need to do something different. I need to think about how I lead people. I need to think about this in a different way. So share an example of that and like what did you do and how you got through it?
So I first heard about this concept called hitting the ceiling. So it's a little bit of a different metaphor, but probably very similar from the coach Dan Sullivan, who heads up Strategic Coach. And one of his coaches was our mutual friend, Mary Miller. And they taught me a lot about what it means to hit ceilings and then how to break through those ceilings. This is actually something that became a very foundational concept within EOS. So I teach my teams on repeat how to like recognize when you're about to hit a ceiling or you are hitting a ceiling, and then the skills and levers to break through those ceilings. So this is a topic near and dear to my heart. But I would say after I first heard that concept, how I understood it in my business life was when I had a very small auto body shop and I was trying to break through the ceiling of $500,000 in revenue. And I had no clue how to do that because I had never run an organization that was more than $100,000 in revenue. So trying to figure out how to go basically with this shop from 0 to 500, that was my first ceiling. I was kind of like, I started bumping up against $250,000 in total revenue for the entire business and was kind of flabbergasted about how do I break through this ceiling, what Dan Sullivan would call a ceiling of complexity. And what he says is you have to simplify. So the way to get through ceilings is not to grind harder. It's not to add something more complex or a new piece of technology that's confusing. It's often we have to take something that we're currently doing and simplify it. And that's what gives us kind of the velocity to break through the ceiling or the wall in your metaphor. So that came for me when I started learning about marketing. I realized that there's all kinds of levers I can pull related to marketing. And that began to grow that business. I eventually grew that business to $2.5 million. So we started around 250 in my first year or two. And then we 10x'd it, another big Dan Sullivan concept. We 10x'd
Yep.
that business and
It's
did,
easier than 2x.
yes, you read the
It's
book.
back there somewhere. It's on my bookshelf.
It's a great one. It's a staple in my family businesses. So we went to 2.5. So we 10x that small business, that one body shop. And that was another big ceiling for me was 2.5 million. And I thought maybe there's some new marketing strategies I can employ. But part of that ceiling was just space. I was running out of space. We were fixing cars and I had tripled the square footage of my body shop. I bought a second building across the street. We had more parking. And I realized like I'm going to have to keep buying or building bigger buildings and getting bigger parking lots. And that's when the ceiling for me was, what if I just bought another shop in another location? And I bought another shop that was doing 2.5 million. So the ceiling for me was 2.5. I broke through it, doubled my revenue in year one of having that first acquisition, which created a monster because
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, I can grow really fast. It's super fun. Just keep doing acquisitions, which got us to that 40x growth, which was super fun and a little harrowing at times.
Yes. So yeah, let's talk about the harrowing parts of it. Because I know like you make it sound so easy, right?
No.
Like right, exactly. I was like, "Oh, well, I just did this." And or, like I just bought another shop and often like it sounds like it's easy or like wow, but what like talk about those as you called it, like talk about some of the harrowing parts, like how did you get yourself through that mentally? What were you going through like personally at the time with that growth?
I have a very large appetite and capacity for risk, and that's often a dangerous thing. So this is not a recommendation to your listeners or
Yeah.
viewers. This is more of a confession, I would say. Kind of going into that journey of beginning the acquisitions, what I was doing was I was getting the owners of these other body shops to finance all or part of the deal and then backfilling that with SBA loans. And what I kind of knew at the time, and even it was all in the fine print, nothing was hidden from me. I just chose to ignore it. I was putting everything on the line. So we're at shop three, shop four, and I'm having a hard time. Like things are starting to wobble. And motorcycle racing, they call it getting the wobbles, and the front tire
Mhm.
starts to go like this. And it's like you just hope you can regain control. And the way to gain control is to kind of relax a little bit. I could not find a way to like relax my grip. And I had to have some really hard conversations with my wife and say, like, hey, our number one asset is our home, and it is at risk because I am having trouble even thinking through how to make payroll in the very near future. So those conversations got really, really scary. What I learned was I had a friend who had had 14 auto body shops, and he told me the hardest thing he ever did was run 2 locations, and the easiest thing he ever did was run 14 locations, which that began to unlock me a little bit. Like I was trying to run all these shops by myself rather than lean into the giftings of others. So the harrowing part for me was became a recognition like I needed help. I needed a lot of help, not just somebody, not an investor or a bank to write me a big check. I needed a team around me to come alongside and say, hey, you don't know what you're doing with bookkeeping or finance. You need help there. You're not the best operator. Like you just keep focusing on selling and acquiring, but you need a team behind you to kind of orchestrate everything. So I began putting that team in place, and that's what helped me get to that 40x ultimately.
Mhm. Well, my first question in that story that you shared, what was your wife's reaction
Hmm.
to the
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like laughing about it, but I'm like, that's a very real conversation that we have when we get home.
Yeah.
It's a very real conversation. So share like what was her reaction and
Yeah.
how long have you guys been married now?
We have been
Spoiler alert.
married 34 years, and her reaction was there was some fear there, but she's also a very contented person. So when we started our life together, we were in urban ministry with a very young and artistic congregation. So I was a pastor of a very small urban church that was filled with artists. All that you can probably translate to there was no money. So we started our marriage at the
We'll put
poverty
that in
line.
the subtitles. There was no money.
The upside to that was we learned to be content with very, very little. Like we had many years early in our marriage that we lived below the poverty line. So for her, and again, this is more of a tribute to her than to me, she's a very contented person. So she doesn't care whether I have 20 million or we have $20 million in the bank, or we're just living check to check and meal to meal. Of course, she was a little bit concerned because our nest was on the line with the house. So that created a little bit of a difficult conversation, but I think I was processing it harder than she was even. So, all that to say, she's a woman of great contentment, and we've had a very good and strong marriage, and we learned to live on very little. So that created like our floor, our comfort level. Like if we had to go back to poverty, we knew how to do that. So we were kind of okay. If everything fell apart, we would just start over and I'd try to build again.
You're like, well, everything now is a bonus. So, yeah. Like, and I love that too, where you're like, we can rebuild,
Yeah.
like, not that you want anything bad to happen or wish it, but stuff happens. And like, worst case scenario, we can rebuild from here. We've
Yes.
done it once, we can do it again. So, talk about EOS and how that like shaped you as a business owner. When did that come into play when you were talking earlier about the growth and like acquisition? When did you discover EOS?
I've brought up Dan Sullivan's name a lot here, more than I expected. I was in his strategic coach program as my business was starting to scale. It took me many years to even qualify to get into his program based on our revenue. But eventually I qualified, was excited to join the strategic coach program. And when I went to the first session, I saw this book on his shelf that was called Traction by Gino Wickman, who's also a coachee of Dan Sullivan. And Dan would always promote the people that he was coaching. He would promote their books and their resources. So I picked it up. It was cool because it had a tire on the front. So I thought, hey, maybe there's something in here related to my line of work, cars. Nothing to do with cars at all. But what I
Another spoiler alert.
that's right. But what I found was a book that provided the framework and the tools, and kind of like someone who had taken all this massive knowledge from other people's resources and boiled it down into a framework and a set of simple tools that I could understand immediately. So I began implementing EOS in my business. We built a leadership team. We had leadership team meetings, furiously reading this book, trying to understand it and digest it and put it into practice. So I did that for a number of years on my own. The challenge for me was I read that book, but I read a lot of other books as well. And I went to a lot of other conferences as well. And I read a lot of articles in industry magazines as well. And every time I'd go to a conference, I'd grab an idea or read this book, grab this idea. And I just kind of bolted this thing together. It was kind of like a Frankenstein business operating model rather than a pure EOS model, which is, in my opinion, perfect for what it is. And I think there's other great operating systems out there like EOS. And what I tell my clients is, hey, give this a shot. And if it doesn't work, first of all, I'll refund your money. We only charge people if they get value. I'll refund your money and I'll help you find another operating system that will work. But my plea is that you go all in either on EOS or find something else that you can go all in, because these systems and frameworks are meant to kind of cohere together as one piece as opposed to piecemeal. So when I stopped piecemealing the business, the thing that allowed me to do that was hiring an EOS implementer named John Herman, who became the implementer for our business. And that got me to run EOS much more purely and got everything on track, which eventually got us ready to sell. He helped me shore up my leadership team. He helped me prepare everything. Everything was just running really well. I was doing less and less and making more money. I'm like, I love EOS. I'm going to do this forever. And private equity came and I wasn't interested. They showed me their number. I got interested.
Turns out I can be bought, right?
The saying, everybody has a number? They found mine. It allowed my father and I both to get out of that industry. We weren't looking for a parachute, but he was ready to retire and I was ready to retire early and get out. Turns out I'm horrible at retirement, but that's another story. So
I know. I think it was the first time I met you. You said I'm a failed retiree. I'm like, right on. Let's talk about that.
my
So
badge of honor.
yeah. So for the people listening who aren't familiar with EOS, or maybe they've heard of it or they've seen the book, and they're now listening to you, and they're like, "Wow, that isn't about cars and
No.
racing, even though it has a tire on it." Tell us what EOS is, but tell us what was the pain that you were experiencing? What were the frustrations and the behaviors, and how was it coming out when you weren't on EOS? And then what is EOS and how does it solve that?
What it didn't do is provide me the sales and marketing side. There's part of EOS is there's a marketing strategy component, but I didn't really need EOS to help me grow or sell better or market better or acquire more businesses. What I was finding and what I really needed and what EOS provided was it helped me order the chaos that was in my business. And there was a lot of chaos. As a high quick start, somebody who just likes to charge ahead and we'll figure it out as we go. In my wake, there was a lot of things that I had not the skill or even the awareness of how to fix. I just kept growing and I was leaving a trail behind me of chaos for my team to just kind of figure it out. What EOS did is it gave me that framework and that set of tools to order that chaos. So I would say the biggest thing it did for me and really for my team, because I could have just kept growing and creating chaos. That's
Profit
super
covers
fun.
all problems, for better or for worse. As long as you're making money, I mean, people
Yeah,
don't leaders. We don't look into these things.
yeah,
So yeah, profit covers a lot of problems. So yeah,
yeah.
go on, because I
And
love
that's
this.
yeah, and that's kind of you're right, absolutely. I just thought, if we need more money, I'll just go make more money. Or if there's an opportunity in another part of the city or even another city, I was starting to expand into other cities. We had shops from northern Cincinnati all the way down to south of Lexington, just that whole I-75 corridor. And I was just kind of starting to just buy up more shops, and which did provide a lot of revenue. There wasn't always the profit coming out the bottom because I was so fixated on growth, right? So
Mhm.
what EOS did is it ordered the chaos, it provided the structure, which allowed me to capture more of that profit as well as continue to grow without losing my mind or my team, right? I was at
Mhm.
risk of losing some really great people because they were getting sick of catching all this shrapnel that was just flying behind me. So
Yeah. And were you aware of the shrapnel, or some leaders are and some leaders aren't. So
yeah,
I like
I would
how
say.
is how
hmm,
is it affecting your team?
I would say early on, I lacked a lot of self awareness, but over time, I became sensitized to it in a good way, where I realized that it was like it was hurting other people or creating confusion for them or making their job harder than it needed to be. When I became aware of that, that was a kind of a painful realization, but I still didn't know how to fix it. It was just this weight of like, oh no, I've grown this thing so big that like I don't know how to help people behind me. Like I figured it out as I went along and I hope they can too. So I had some good entrepreneurial leaders that were just hanging on for the ride at this point. But at some point, like we really needed that structure. And again, not to over toot the EOS horn, but it did provide the structure that I needed so that like I not only gained self-awareness, I had a system, a framework, and a set of tools to help me order the chaos that was being created behind me.
What I'm hearing like through your stories today, not just this example, but it's like simplicity. The way to bring order is not through complexity. It's not, I mean, there's a time and a place for a process, right? Like entrepreneurs are typically like, I don't need the process, and
You need
and
it.
often we don't. I'm still recovering from corporate, so we have our processes have processes, and they have processes. So there's a time and a place, but you need structure,
Yeah.
but it's like simplicity. Structure doesn't have to mean complexity; it can mean simplicity. You also shared you started implementing EOS on your own, and then you hired an implementer,
Mhm.
and then now you are an implementer.
That's right. Yes.
So tell us, like, what is for leaders out there who are like, okay, I'm interested, I'm thinking about it, or they're like, yes, like, we need this, but they're like, I don't have the budget, I'm just going to do it myself. Like, I could just read the book and figure it out. Like, what kind of compare and contrast, like, when you were implementing it yourself versus when you hired someone to officially implement it for you?
Yeah, and I feel like implementing it myself, we were making some progress, but it was at a snail's pace. Hiring an implementer is what really helped me kind of start to put all the different pieces together in the right sequence. So, again, my kind of Frankenstein model of just throwing things together, and EOS was just one part of that Frankenstein model. And when I kind of decided like I need to go all in on EOS, hired the implementer. It wasn't like an easy decision or a cheap decision. It was, the person announced their fee to me, and I said, "Oh, that's great for the whole year." And he's like, "No, that's per session, and we need to do at least 5 sessions in year one." I'm like, "Okay, let me go back to my bookkeeper and controller. We're gonna have to have another conversation." But I decided ultimately like it was worth it. And truly, truly, like from a financial standpoint, it was worth it. It became something that, like, again, it began to capture a lot of that profit that I was leaving on the table, or it was kind of being filtering through my fingers like sand. I had this thing that I could now catch a lot of that profit and structure the business so that it became much more orderly, much more fun, actually. I enjoyed the business at the end as much as I did at the beginning. That messy middle was really hard, but EOS made it kind of fun again. So the journey from like doing it myself to hiring an implementer, I think it was important for me to try to do it and to like succeed mildly, but mostly fail. That allowed me to fully to go all in. And when I burned the boats, they say, that's when things really shifted.
Yeah. So, like, I want to hone in on the part when you're like, oh, yeah, I can afford that, annually. And then he's like, actually, we need five. Multiply that by five.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many people get stuck there. Because, I
Yeah.
mean, the cost is like, yes, you could talk value all day long, right?
Mhm.
Like, you could rationalize any investment, but what was the thing that actually made you realize, like, no, we're going to do this
Yeah.
versus like, because, and I also say that because when leaders want to do things themselves, you also don't know what good looks like. You just know what you've done. How was that conversation with yourself?
Yeah, I think what I realized is, and some of the ways that even my coach would, talk about this is they wanted to help me 10x my business. Then we have to peel apart. What does 10x actually mean? I didn't know if I wanted to 10x my revenue again. That wasn't so important to me. At a certain level, like there was enough revenue. I needed to capture the profit. I needed to recapture the joy of being in business. I needed some time off, basically. That was another piece of what I wanted. So as we talked about 10xing the business, what started to frame up in my mind, and this is a part of Dan Sullivan, once again, his framework of 10x, it's not just about money or revenue. Like perhaps you want to like double your revenue, but 5x your profit. That's also 10x, the 5 times 2, right? Or maybe you want to triple your days off and triple your bottom line. That's 9 or 10x. So the idea here is not just like, not to get fixated on the money piece. Like the investment for EOS was worth it for me because it helped me get more time off. It allowed me to do other things in my life besides grinding away at a business and having hard conversations with my wife at night. It allowed us some of that, but it loosened things up when the profit was there as well as the time. So for me, it was a combination. Like I knew how to grow the top line. I needed help capturing the value that I was creating and then getting the time back that I wanted to pursue other passions. I had other ministries and other things I wanted to be a part of. So other nonprofits. So anyway, it's not just the money piece. The money piece will be there, but what you get back is profit, time, peace of mind, a healthy team. You're going to enjoy your business again. And it's like, what is that? What is that ultimately worth?
I love it. You shared, like, you explained that so clearly of like there are benefits, but you can't quantify them all the
Mhm.
time. Like,
Yeah.
so we were talking before we started recording about meetings. I love meetings, said nobody ever, right? There's actually two parts to this. One is because we should have hit record earlier. We were talking about like what is the importance. So you're a leader over your business. And at what point did you realize, maybe it came with EOS, maybe it didn't, but when you really started to establish an executive team? And then the second part is like once you establish that executive team, like how did you know to do that? And then the second part would be talk about the meetings and how did you run and use that executive team to help move the business forward?
First, it was just me giving out big titles. I didn't know how to build an executive team. I was like, oh, we're big enough. Maybe I should have a CFO now, and I hire somebody and give them a title of CFO. And it's like, well, we also probably need a COO. It's like, okay, let's get a COO. So I was just kind of again cobbling together, like just throwing out titles for people and pretty good, probably really good compensation for them as well. But that does not make a team. Titles and comp do not make a team, obviously. It's so obvious now. In the moment, it was like, I don't know how to do this. So we'll just start gathering C suite
Right.
people and see what happens because I'm going to
Yeah.
make it as I go along. That doesn't work. EOS, again, helped me build a true leadership team. And one of the ways we did that was by having a regular cadence or a meeting pulse, is what we call it in EOS, of a weekly leadership team meeting that's 90 minutes long. And when I coach this with my clients, when I heard it for the first time myself, it's like, what? We have to do another 90-minute meeting. And it's like, I get all this resistance, like, can we do it in 60 minutes? And it's like, you can't. You're going to Frankenstein it. You're going to regret it. Like, I've been down this road. So I really push hard. Like, if you do one thing really well, do this 90-minute meeting. We call it the L10. There's all kinds of information online about it. I can send anybody who's interested more information about it. But it's a very clear 90-minute meeting agenda, and it gets your leadership team together. It gets them rowing in the same direction every week. And I will say, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm not sure EOS would approve this, but I will say that the 90-minute meeting, if followed purely for those 90 minutes every week, you get 80% of the value of EOS in that meeting because in that meeting, you're building team health. You're having open and honest conversations. You're building relationships because you're sharing good news personally with each other at the very beginning of the meeting. You're reviewing a scorecard. You're kind of that data component is in play every week. What are the lead measures that are going to move the needle on the things that are important to us? You review your quarterly rocks, what we call it's goals, but we call them rocks. So you're reviewing your rocks every week to see if they're on track or off track. You're talking about your customers. You're talking about your employees. So it's a very structured way. You cover everything. No stone is left unturned in this meeting for your business. And it's every week, and you never miss it unless you're on vacation or you die. Those are the only two excuses that Gino Wickman, the founder of EOS,
Or
said.
you die.
Yeah, it's not, even if somebody else dies, too bad. Like, you have to die or you're on vacation. I know it's kind of sick.
Oh my God, I love it. So like, I mean, people are driving or they're on the treadmill and they're like,
Yeah.
what?
What? Death.
This took a turn.
The point here is like that weekly cadence and that meeting pulse of every week you're hitting every major thing in the business. And here's the real kicker. You have 60 minutes to deal with the biggest issues. So out of that 90 minutes, 60 minutes is given to like the real live animals, I call them, in your business, the things that are challenging you, getting in your way, bogging you down. Those are brought to the surface. They're captured on a list. And then whoever is leading the meeting will order that list based on the biggest and hardest and most important issue. And you just begin tackling those one at a time until you run out of time. And then you keep up on the list for the following week. And sometimes it'll grow, but you just keep working through that list. And there's a very detailed and disciplined way to deal with those issues. It's called IDS. Identify the root cause of the issue. Discuss it as briefly as possible. Teams love to talk, and we try to limit the talking to only be talking about an S, which is a solve. So we identify root causes, we discuss it briefly, and then we focus on how can we get this to go away for the long-term greater good of the company. So that's the weekly L10, we call it. This means level 10, because we rate the meeting out every week on a scale of 1 to 10. And if it's less than 8, you ask the person who scored it less than an 8, what would have made it a 10 today? And then that person can give you feedback, and it creates a continuous improvement loop in your meeting every week.
I love the structure. I wish I'd known it 10, 20, 30 years ago. Like, I wish everybody operated like this because meetings is like where stuff happens in the business world. It's like conversations with one another.
Yeah.
And talk about conflict in the meeting, like healthy conflict. And because I want people to understand, like, when you had said also, like, okay, you rate the meeting, and if it was less than an 8, you have to say why. Like, that is like, I don't know, like a crazy outlandish behavior for someone coming from the corporate world. We're like, what are you talking about? No, if I didn't like the meeting, Kevin, what I do is I don't say anything in the meeting. I disagree passive aggressively. And then after the meeting is when I go like have lunch with my best friend, and then we complain about it and we gossip. And then when we have to implement the project that we never agreed to in the first place, we half-ass it because we were never bought in the first place. I'm going off on this tangent because I've seen so many people, as have you, like they're stuck. They don't know. There's like gossip and they can't hold their employees accountable. And that's probably the number one question I get is like, how do I get people to do their job? How do I hold them accountable? And what I'm trying to back it up to is you have to get their buy-in first. And the way that you get their buy-in is that you have meetings like Kevin is talking about, where you used the term live animals, like you address the elephant in the room and you get everyone's opinion on it. So I feel very passionately about this, as you could say.
Can I interview you sometime about meetings? That's awesome.
It's from all the pain of 20 years, and I mean, public companies and private companies that, everybody dreads meetings and they roll their eyes. But if you don't have so some leaders are like, well, I just won't have the meeting. Well, now nobody's talking to each other.
Right.
It like blew my mind when I left corporate and I started reading Pat Lencioni, and it's like, oh no, the meetings are the place to have these conversations, to have this conflict.
Yes. So you and I both love Pat Lencioni, and Gino Wickman does as well, the founder of EOS. And I think he may have borrowed this idea. You can confirm this if you remember. But we talk at the very first meeting with our leadership teams that are running on EOS. Every time we set expectations, the implementer or the coach in the room will say basically the same thing. Today, my expectation is that we would have an open and honest conversation. We want to have vulnerability based trust growing in the room. We enter the danger. I have a sign on the wall behind me. So I'm in my session room, but the opposite wall, there's a sign that says enter the danger. So it sits right in front of where people sit all day. It reminds them we're going to enter the danger. And then to the left of that, I have a painting of a bison because bison run into storms. So when a storm rolls across the plain states, the cows will run away from it and the bison will run right through the storm. They just get it over with. They don't fight it. They just go straight through it. So I encourage my clients. I say, remember, we're going to be bison today and we're going to enter the danger. So any storm that's in the business, let's be open and honest and even vulnerable. And I remind them, like, what that means is when you start to feel uncomfortable saying something, you're almost there. Click it up one more notch.
Yeah.
Then we're being really open and honest. So I encourage them to, like, when they feel afraid, that's when they're getting close to a very important conversation.
Yeah. That's such a great analogy. I'm like, so that you didn't have the Ted Lasso sign, the yellow believe sign.
I love
You-
Ted.
That's what we want it to be, though, right? It's like, oh, we're just like, hit the believe sign. Like, I believe in our team. I believe this and that. But you're like, no, enter the danger is our
Enter the
sign. Like,
danger.
we've
That's
got to
right.
be willing to do that.
That's it. It's where it's at.
Oh, that's good stuff. That is good stuff. Hey, but while I have you, let me grab this very important book off my shelf.
I try to
Because
forget
I
that I wrote that.
realized this, I didn't add this to your bio. It wasn't in your bio, actually.
Yeah.
We've talked about you being a failed retiree.
Yeah.
Just talk about this book for a couple minutes. Like,
Okay.
yeah, I'm a big fan of it. So
Thank
share it with
you.
the audience.
I am very proud of that book, but I don't promote it well for whatever reason. I coach and teach out of it all the time. I have roundtables that I lead, and we use that as kind of a core text, or at least I bring a lot of those principles to bear. I wrote that book mainly for my kids. I was
Oh.
trying to collate when I sold my businesses to private equity 4.5 years ago. I was trying to collate everything I had learned over the last 18 years of being in business, being a leader, into something that they could have and remember and utilize, because they're both now, my two older children are both leading their own businesses. My youngest is still in college, and we have hopes that she will someday as well. So, a family of entrepreneurs. But really, that was my attempt to kind of collate and what's the right word? Pull together the lessons that I had learned into my own framework, into my own understandable way of, like, here's what I did first, here's what I did second, here's where I really messed things up, here's how I recovered. And I just share openly in that book kind of my journey over the 18 years of building the auto body businesses. So thanks for reminding me about that book. I don't think about it
Yeah.
very often, but I appreciate it.
And I realize for those who are listening to the podcast and not watching it, the book is called Profits and Purpose: The Christian Entrepreneur's Guide to Growing a Business and Leaving a Legacy by Kevin A. Rains. So thank you. All right. We are going to head into the lightning round if you are ready for it. We wrap up every episode with the same 5 questions with each of our guests. All right. So, number 1, what is your favorite personality assessment?
Ooh, I love them all so much. They're all so fun. Working Genius, Enneagram, Strength Finder, Myers-Briggs, Kolbe. Like, I've taken every one of those multiple times. I'm going to go with Enneagram just because it keeps resurfacing in my life for whatever reason. So, Enneagram.
Cool. And what is your Enneagram number?
8. I'm a challenger. I am what some people call an 8-hole.
Yes. I first heard that from Dave Ramsey himself. A fellow 8. You're in good
That's
company. All right. Second question. What is a book that was instrumental in your life?
Man, first of all, you know this about me, I think. I love to read and I cannot get enough. It's been a passion of mine since I was 16 years old, and I especially love nonfiction. I would say the one that I probably find myself recommending the most, it's gotten a lot of traction, but it hasn't gotten as much as I think it should, is the book Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott. It's an incredible book. A corollary book to that is called Radical Candor by Kim
Mm.
Scott. They're not related as far as I know, but two women with the same last name writing on the basic same similar topic. But Fierce edges out Radical Candor just a little bit. But I love both of those. But Fierce
Yeah.
Conversations.
Awesome. And we'll link to all this in the show notes too, including your own book, Profits and
Okay,
Purpose.
great. Thank you.
All right. Number 3, what is some of the best advice you've ever received?
There was a season, boy, and I need to heed this advice right now. It is hitting me with a little bit of a weight that I'm in a season where I need to rehear this. I had two mentors. One of them was my father, and then another mentor that was assigned to me by the SBA, the SCORE program, which I highly recommend to entrepreneurs who are just getting started. Great program. But they both said something very similar to me, and they didn't know each other, but they said it around the same time. My dad said, "You can do anything," which made me feel great, right? My confidence goes up, but you can't do everything. So it reminded me like focus, kind of narrow down. You're trying to do too much. You need to focus. If you focus, you can accomplish anything. And then the other mentor said, it's an old Buddhist saying, I believe, chase two rabbits, catch none. So
Yes.
basically, he's like, if you start to chase everything, you'll end up with nothing. So pick something and catch it.
Such great advice for entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
especially like we could do this or we could do this or we could do this.
Yes.
I love it. All right, number 4, what is a failure you cherish?
A failure I cherish. Hmm. I think like there was a time I write about this in my book. The whole appendix is devoted to the three biggest mistakes that I made. And two of them really like are very similar. They correlate to each other. But the basic idea here is I began hiring friends into my business early on and then trying to train them in this industry. And I have multiple examples of doing this. And I think I was trying to satisfy a need that I had around loneliness, or stated more positively, I had a desire and a need for community that was going unmet in my early business journey. So I just began hiring people that I loved being with, and they knew me and they loved me, and it kind of created a little bit of camaraderie. The challenge was I don't like the relationship was so far exceeding their ability to catch up to the needs that my business had around like industry acumen. So I cherish that one because it taught me it's okay to have needs like community and overcoming loneliness, but to keep that separate from business concerns. Not that it's a never, but that's a little of a yellow flag for me. Like start with like expertise and acumen for the position you're hiring for and not your own needs. So
Yeah.
I still maintain friendships with all of those people. I still love them all dearly. And it's like some of those relationships barely survive the business challenges we face together.
Good stuff. And the final question, my personal favorite. So you played sports. You've also done some speaking. Before you would go onto the field or the court when you were playing basketball, what is your hype song? What is your walk-on music that you want to hear to get you going and get the crowd going?
So I'm old. So I'm a kid of the late 80s and 90s. Two immediately jump to mind, and I don't even know why. One is a song by Kansas called Carry On My Wayward Son. It's a
I know
rocker.
it.
Okay, good. It's definitely a rock and roll. And then the other one, also rock and roll, is Tom Sawyer by Rush. That's a great song for an Enneagram 8 who just wants to be
Yes.
against something. Today's Tom Sawyer, he gets high on you.
I love it. Cool. Well, before we go, Kevin, please tell everyone where, speaking of hype, hype yourself. Where can they
Oh,
find you? Where can they follow you? If they have questions about you or EOS, where
yeah.
do we go?
The platform I'm on most these days is LinkedIn. So it's just, I think it's linkedin.com/Kevin Rains or Kevin A. Rains, but you can find me there. Rains is spelled just like the weather, Rains. I also have a microsite on EOS Worldwide's website. So you could go to EOS Worldwide and then type in my name, Kevin Rains, and I'll pop up there. So those are a couple ways to connect with me. I love text, email, and phone calls in that order.
I'm well aware of that. Story for another time. Oh, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom and your joy and your lessons. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you liked something from this episode, hit share and send it to a friend or fellow leader. Don't forget to follow the show and leave a review because it helps leaders like you find us faster. This episode of Think Outside the Boss was produced by Volt Productions. I'll see you next week, and until then, keep moving forward.